It started with a message. Just a few words in her inbox, ordinary at first glance, but it made her heart stop. No threats. No demands. Just familiarity. Someone out there knew her name. Knew her family. Knew things they shouldn't. She told herself it was a mistake. An old acquaintance. A wrong address. But the messages kept coming. Day after day. Always from somewhere new. Always closer. In a world where everything is connected, safety should feel simple. But for one Colorado mother, every click, every ring, every step outside her door began to feel like a countdown. Who was watching her? Why did they know so much? And how far would they go to make sure she stayed afraid? By the time anyone realized what was really happening, the truth was darker, closer, and far more calculated than anyone could have imagined. This is not just the story of a crime. It's the story of trust, illusion, and the danger that hides behind the screen. This is the digital deception, the murder of Kristil Krug. Before the headlines, before the investigation, before her name became a symbol of betrayal, there was simply Kristil. A daughter. A friend. A woman who believed in good things, and good people. Kristil Lynn Krug was born in the late 1970s in Colorado Springs, a place that feels like community stitched into mountains. Her father, a high school science teacher, and her mother, a nurse at the local hospital, raised their children with the steady rhythm of honesty, kindness, and curiosity. From the beginning, Kristil stood out. She wasn't loud or restless, she was observant. She wanted to understand how things worked, how chemicals reacted, why stars flickered, how people thought. By the time she was a teenager, her teachers described her as the kind of student who didn't just memorize, she discovered. That curiosity carried her to the Colorado School of Mines, where she pursued biochemical engineering, a field dominated by precision and persistence, both of which came naturally to her. She graduated near the top of her class. But Kristil wasn't driven by ambition alone. She wanted balance. A family. A life where intellect and compassion could coexist. And somewhere between lectures and internships she met him, Daniel Krug. He was charismatic, thoughtful, and just as fascinated by technology as she was. Friends described them as a perfect match, the kind of couple that finished each other's ideas before the other could speak. They married in their late 20s, settling in Broomfield, a community that embodied their vision of stability. Kristil worked in chemical analysis for a local environmental firm, balancing long hours with bedtime stories and science projects at the kitchen table. She was the kind of mother who volunteered for every school fundraiser, who stayed up past midnight helping her kids finish their solar system model, even if it meant she'd be tired at work the next morning. Those who knew her say she carried a quiet strength. Not loud. Not forceful. Just steady, like gravity. But in every love story, there are shadows no one sees coming. Moments when comfort hides cracks. And sometimes the people we trust most are the ones who learn exactly where to hide their secrets. For Kristil Krug, life seemed safe, predictable, full of love and purpose. But beneath that calm exterior, the story that would one day shock Colorado had already begun. Quietly, invisibly, one message at a time. Early in 2023, something small began to disrupt Kristil Krug's life. At first, it was almost imperceptible, a text from an unknown number. A few words. Vague. Yet somehow precise. Familiar. "You'll never forget me," it said. Kristil paused. She did not recognize the number. She wondered, an old friend? Someone misdirected? But the next message arrived the following day. And the day after that. Soon the emails began. Subject lines: "I see you. Always watching." Attached were photos of her car parked at the grocery store, at school drop-off, at work. It wasn't random. It wasn't coincidence. She tried to rationalize. Maybe it was a former boyfriend, someone from her past resurfacing, someone she could handle. She told the police. She reported the messages, the photos, the increasing anxiety. She began to document everything. Every text. Every photo. Every knock at the door. Her meticulous record became a journal, a log of fear growing by the day. Her friends began to notice changes. She double-locked doors. She installed cameras in and around the home. She spoke in hushed tones, glancing over her shoulder. Small cracks in her once calm, organized life began to appear. And through it all, her husband, Daniel Krug, remained by her side. Supportive. Attentive. Calm. At least that was the story she saw. But as the months passed, the unease intensified. Kristil sensed that something, or someone, was always one step ahead. Her sanctuary, her home, the very place she should have felt safest, seemed invaded. December 14, 2023. A routine morning. She dropped her children off at school. She returned home briefly, and that was the last time she would be seen alive by those who loved her. Later that day, an emergency call came in. Her husband reported an accident. Kristil had been found unresponsive in the family garage. But when investigators arrived, something felt off. Small inconsistencies. Subtle details. Clues that whispered, this was not as simple as it seemed. And in that moment, the first questions emerged. Who had been watching Kristil Krug? And what had really happened behind the walls of her home? While the world remembers Kristil Krug for her intelligence, her warmth, and the family she built, there is another story woven in shadows, the story of the man closest to her. The man who, for years, wore the mask of devotion. The man who would become the architect of deception. Daniel Krug was born in the early 1980s into a seemingly stable home. His father, a software engineer, was a man of logic and precision, often distant, lost in numbers and lines of code. His mother, a homemaker, kept the household orderly, yet emotional expression was limited, a gentle, controlled warmth rather than exuberant affection. From an early age, Daniel learned to navigate life with structure, predictability, and careful observation. He excelled academically, a brilliant student in mathematics, physics, and computers, but he was also introverted, reserved, preferring the company of books and machines to the chaos of peers. He observed people. He noted patterns. And he learned early that control brought comfort. His adolescence was defined by achievement and order, yet a quiet isolation persisted. While classmates joked and laughed, Daniel kept meticulous schedules, organized every aspect of his life, and developed an uncanny ability to predict outcomes, both in school and later in social interactions. It was this precision, this quiet discipline that earned him accolades and respect, but it also masked a deeper, more calculated temperament. As he moved into adulthood, Daniel's skill with technology flourished. He became adept in IT, computer systems, and cybersecurity, tools that would later give him not just a career, but the ability to manipulate, monitor, and control situations from behind the screen. Friends from college and early workplaces remember a man who was affable, charming, and intelligent. To outsiders, Daniel Krug seemed the model professional, the thoughtful friend, the reliable partner. But those closest to him sometimes caught glimpses of a private persona, perfectionism, intense control, a mind that never stopped calculating. It was in these formative years, in the quiet of laboratories, libraries, and late-night study sessions, that Daniel's patterns solidified. He learned that information was power. And with power he could orchestrate events to his liking. Kristil Krug entered his life through shared academic circles. It was a whirlwind of intellectual connection, shared curiosity, late-night study sessions, conversations that stretched from molecular compounds to the possibilities of life beyond Earth. Friends described their bond as instantaneous, magnetic. Daniel, for the first time, seemed genuinely open, smiling more freely, sharing pieces of himself he had carefully hidden from others. Their courtship was fast, intense, and outwardly ideal. He was attentive, considerate, and seemingly devoted. To anyone watching, they were the perfect couple, a union of intellect, charm, and shared ambition. They married in their late 20s, settling in Broomfield, Colorado, and soon began building the life Kristil had always envisioned. Yet behind the smiles and shared projects, subtle shifts began to appear. Small moments at first, a glance too long, questions about her whereabouts, curiosity that bordered on scrutiny. Friends noticed Kristil occasionally tensing, whispering to them, "Sometimes I feel like he's watching even when he's not here." She dismissed it at first, rationalized it as concern, love, attentiveness. But the patterns grew more insistent. Every text she received, every phone call she made, every social interaction became something he monitored. Her independence, once celebrated, began to create friction. What outsiders could not see was the quiet perfectionism, the deep-seated need to control outcomes, that had been honed over decades. Daniel did not act impulsively, he calculated, he planned, he anticipated. To him, a relationship was not just emotional, it was a system. Every variable mattered. And the idea of losing control, of Kristil stepping beyond his influence, was intolerable. Over the years, these tendencies escalated. The charming, intelligent man his friends saw became a careful orchestrator behind closed doors. He monitored messages, checked social media accounts, even tracked locations. His actions were methodical, invisible to anyone who might question them. And yet, Kristil did not immediately perceive the full extent of the shadow beside her. She saw a supportive partner, Someone who noticed details, who seemed to anticipate her needs, who laughed with her children and shared her curiosity for the world. It was a deception perfected over time, built on trust and the illusion of normalcy. As her independence grew, her career, her friendships, her personal pursuits, Daniel's quiet control became more pronounced. A question here, a subtle criticism there, his attention always directed, always precise. The more she stepped into her own light, the more he needed to tighten the shadows around her. This is the paradox of a man who loves meticulously and fears entirely. If Kristil left, even in thought, even in spirit, he would lose not just control but the entire framework of his carefully constructed world. And in that quiet, controlled space he began to plan. Not impulsively. Not visibly. But in ways that no one, not friends, not family, not Kristil herself, would recognize until it was too late. As December 2023 unfolded, Kristil Krug faced a choice that would change everything. She had begun to imagine a life beyond the confines of fear. She considered leaving, moving out after the holidays, creating a distance between herself and the shadows that had haunted her for months. She did not yet know that the very person she feared most was orchestrating the fear itself. Daniel Krug had discovered her plans, through messages she thought private, through the journal she meticulously maintained. And in a calculated escalation he became the architect of the terror. Threatening texts, emails, photos, stalking that seemed external, all meticulously engineered. Fake accounts impersonating old boyfriends. Digital breadcrumbs leading nowhere, or exactly where he wanted them. Even his workplace network became a tool, a digital mask hiding the source of the threats. She confided in law enforcement. "I think it's someone close," she said. "Someone who knows everything about my life." Her documentation became more than therapy, it became a record, a thread of evidence that would one day unravel a carefully constructed lie. December 14, 2023, a morning like any other. Kristil drops her children at school. She returns home briefly, preparing for work, unaware that the very devices she trusted, her cameras, her phone, have been compromised. Her cameras? Disabled. Her phone? Sending texts she did not write. Texts implying she was going to meet someone. Everything was staged. Everything orchestrated to create an illusion of normalcy, an illusion of accident. He went to work that morning, appearing as calm and composed as any neighbor might. Returning later he would discover, or so it seemed, the tragedy he had engineered. But the illusion of accident, carefully crafted, methodical, controlled, began to crumble the moment investigators stepped inside. And the trail that had seemed external, anonymous, random, was not at all what it appeared to be. Because when detectives traced the messages, they realized the stalker's device was closer than anyone could have imagined. How could someone so close orchestrate such terror without being detected? The investigation would soon reveal the unimaginable. When law enforcement arrived at the scene, the tragedy appeared immediate, an accident, a sudden loss. But investigators quickly sensed there was more to uncover. And in today's world, the answers often lie not in what we see, but in the digital footprints left behind. The police digital unit began their painstaking work, tracing emails and phone messages, analyzing metadata that most people never notice. They followed digital breadcrumbs, timestamps, IP addresses, login histories, seeking a trail, a clue, a name. The first breakthrough came quietly, almost imperceptibly. The emails and threatening messages, supposedly anonymous, all traced back in part to a single IP address. One that led investigators to Daniel Krug. Not just at home but at his workplace as well. Deleted messages, hidden accounts, burner phones, everything pointed to one reality. Someone had meticulously constructed a false threat, a digital maze designed to manipulate Kristil emotionally and psychologically. Investigators uncovered accounts impersonating former acquaintances. Receipts for prepaid phones purchased anonymously. Home security footage, carefully altered to suggest outside intrusion. A house that appeared violated, yet the violation had been orchestrated from inside. Then they found her journal, the very log Kristil had kept for months. Every text recorded, every email, every unsettling encounter noted in precise detail. And in the final entries the fear is palpable, it feels like someone knows everything. Someone close. The realization hit investigators hard. This was not random. Not external. Not even spontaneous. It was calculated. Deliberate. And it had been hiding in plain sight. Those who knew him, colleagues, neighbors, friends had no reason to suspect Daniel's duplicity. He was the attentive husband, the professional, the quiet force who appeared devoted in every way. No one could have imagined the double life he was living. As detectives pieced together the digital evidence, the emotional weight of Kristil's last months became clear. Her meticulous documentation, her intuition, her fear, had all been a warning. But no one, not even she, could see the full picture unfolding in real time. The investigation revealed a mind operating with precision, patience, and manipulation. A calculated campaign designed to terrorize, to isolate, to control. And in the quiet hum of servers and screens, law enforcement realized the scope of the betrayal. This was no ordinary case of stalking. It was the work of someone who understood both technology and human psychology. Someone who had weaponized love, trust, and fear. And for Kristil Krug, the warning signs had been there all along, documented, visible, yet tragically ignored until it was too late. The digital trail was clear, but the motive, the mind behind it, the question of why, that would take months to untangle. After months of painstaking investigation, Daniel Krug was arrested. The arrest was swift, factual, respectful, conducted with professionalism, yet carrying the weight of years of betrayal and loss. The prosecution faced a complex task: to piece together a timeline of deceit, manipulation, and carefully orchestrated terror. Fake emails, burner phones, tampered home security systems. Each element of Daniel's digital campaign needed to be presented clearly, to show the deliberate, calculated intent behind what at first seemed anonymous threats. The defense argued circumstantial evidence, questioning whether the digital trails truly proved intent. But the forensic work was meticulous. Every IP address, every deleted message, every manipulated device pointed back to the same source. Intent was undeniable. Courtroom testimony became the emotional core of the trial. Digital analysts explained the intricate web Daniel had created. Friends recounted Kristil's quiet worries. Her parents, composed yet visibly shaken, described the vibrant, trusting woman they had lost. The most powerful moment came with the entry of Kristil's stalker log into evidence. Page after page of meticulous documentation, her observations, fears, and intuition, read aloud in the courtroom. It became more than a record of harassment. It became a testament to her awareness, her foresight, and the courage she had shown in documenting every detail. After careful deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. Guilty. First-degree murder. Stalking. Impersonation. Sentencing followed. Life without parole. Justice, in the form of accountability, had been delivered, though it could never restore what was lost. The courtroom was silent with emotion. Family members wept quietly. Prosecutors expressed relief, tempered by the knowledge of tragedy. Friends and colleagues left the proceedings with heavy hearts, carrying the memory of Kristil, a woman who had faced fear with courage and whose meticulous care had ultimately exposed the truth. In the end, the law recognized not only the act but the methodical cruelty behind it. A life taken, yes, but also a story of vigilance, love, and the power of documentation. Lessons for all who face threats hidden in plain sight. Kristil Krug's story is more than a crime. It is a lens through which we examine trust, love, and the subtle ways control can manifest. Her case reminds us that abuse is not always physical. It can be digital, invisible, calculated. Experts in domestic dynamics and digital safety emphasize that modern stalking often takes a new form. It's no longer about following someone down the street, one advocate explains. It's about controlling their life through devices, messages, and manipulation. It's digital dominance. Organizations working in domestic violence prevention have highlighted red flags: excessive monitoring, controlling communication, or subtle intimidation masked as care. Education, awareness, and vigilance are now critical tools for safety. The community also came together in memory of Kristil. Vigils, quiet walks, and tributes reminded everyone of the human impact behind the headlines. Her courage, even in documenting her fears, became a symbol of vigilance and resilience. Kristil's case opened conversations about digital violence, about how love can turn to control when technology becomes a weapon. And in the aftermath, it challenged families, neighbors, and even strangers to examine their own relationships, their own boundaries, and the ways technology shapes our lives. Her life reminds us that awareness can be protection, and vigilance can save lives. Kristil's story is a call to recognize the signs before it is too late. Today, Daniel Krug serves a life sentence in a Colorado correctional facility. Justice has been delivered, but the echoes of betrayal remain. Kristil's children, now under the loving care of family, are slowly rebuilding their lives. Surrounded by support, they carry forward the memory of a mother who loved fiercely, who trusted wisely, and who documented her fears with courage. Her legacy extends beyond her family. Local safety awareness initiatives now honor her memory, teaching communities about digital vigilance, healthy boundaries, and recognizing warning signs before tragedy strikes. Kristil's story isn't just about one act of betrayal. It's about recognizing danger hidden in plain sight, listening to your instincts, and taking action when something feels wrong. It is a testament to awareness, courage, and the enduring impact of a life remembered. In her memory we are reminded, vigilance saves lives and love, even in the face of loss, can inspire change. If Kristil's story resonated with you, both as a cautionary tale and as a reminder of the power of vigilance, please share this video to raise awareness about digital abuse and the signs of controlling behavior. Subscribe to our channel for more real-life cases, told with care, depth, and respect for those affected. Together, we can honor the lives lost and learn how to protect ourselves and our communities.